Hey guys, I'm Jax, a non-book boy, and this is my non-book boy review of The Wheel of Time Season 2, Episode 7. So after last week's emotionally devastating and powerful episode, mostly to do with the horrors of the fingernail tribe and their disgusting elongated fingernails and just general slaver attitude, this episode felt like a really nice reprieve from all those fingernail horrors and just general disgusting stuff that we had to deal with Egwene. And I, for one, am very glad to not have to discuss the fingernail tribe, at least much. As much as I love talking about how much I hate the fingernail tribe, I also hate the fingernail tribe, so it's nice not to have to talk about them very much. This week, it's really all about Moiraine and Lanfear and just on Lanfear. Lanfear is starting to become too sexy for me to properly handle and not kind of root for. I am starting to find it very difficult to imagine a Wheel of Time universe in which I am not just kind of wanting her to succeed and win. Just sexy lady casually walking through a crowd, just throwing fireballs left, right, and center, just wrecking shop. There's really nothing else more I want to see than that. I'm not sure if this is an intentional decision from the show, but I'm starting to feel like every single villain in this show is the sexiest characters in the show. We've got Lanfear, absolute babe. We've got Ishy, who is just oozing sexual energy every time he speaks with any character. Really loving Ishy. But also I found even Renna Bolton this week, when she wasn't being she was still the worst, but not so horrendously awful like last week. I was starting to see like a little glimmer of sexy mystery behind those eyes. I think something's wrong with me. So this week's cold open starts 20 years ago, and Moiraine and the mother Amyrlin, they have a moment where they're like, oh, we love each other and we're having all these wonderful plans for the future. And whilst the scene is very happy, there's such a tragic undertone to it all, because obviously we know that those plans do not come to fruition. And then it turns out the reason is that moment when they're having all these plans, and even the makeup and the way they're acting, they just feel so young at heart and free-spirited, and Moiraine kind of looks happier than we've ever seen her in the show. This kind of very serious tone that she's kind of portrayed throughout the series is completely gone in this opening scene. So I really like that contrast. And the thing that has changed and morphed Moiraine into the character that we know now is the fact that this magic witch lady, prophecy, seer character has a vision, and she knows that the dragon has just been born. And she tells these two people, hey, go find him and save the world, and, you know, all that sweet, good hero stuff. And there's this, like, that moment where you see Moiraine's, like, face kind of slowly change into the kind of serious, kind of mission-driven character that we know. And I loved that scene, but I particularly love the symmetry of having Season 1, Episode 7, Cold Open, be the moment with Rand's mother, and she's fighting, and she's a badass, and she's got red hair, and it's all sweet and awesome. And then this season, Episode 7's Cold Open, is at the same time in just a different place, but at the same time in that same moment. And I just really love that symmetry and that kind of connective tissue of Episode 7's doing that. And of course it works as a very nice start to the bookend of the episode. So it starts with them being lovers, and then the episode ends with them being enemies. And that final scene is so heartbreaking and devastating and really disgusting. Like, there's that moment where the mother, like, forces Moiraine to, like, use her power, but she doesn't want to, almost kind of imperious cursing her, like forcing her to use her body and her mind in a way she doesn't want to. And it really felt like, to me at least, that this was a really horribly intense metaphor for not just like the corruption of power and the kind of abuse of one's power when someone's kind of, you know, got the hierarchy and is the boss of someone else, but also really felt like kind of a violation to her body and her mind. And the scene had some really dark undertones, which I found to be very upsetting. Like, it works for the story, and it's a really interesting place to put these two characters, but it was very unpleasant to watch. I really liked how it was framed. Like, it's quite subtle, but her movements were just so unhumanly and it just made me feel very gross. And then, of course, because Lanfear rocks up and just throws everyone everywhere and just kind of takes command of the situation because it's Lanfear and she's a badass and evil. I do remember that she's evil. I can't help but love her. But it makes the whole scene so much more devastating and ugly and just, like, pointless. Like, they have this huge rift between Moiraine and the mother, And it's like, it's all for nothing. She closes the gates and she makes her do this big move. But when Lanfear rocks up, throws her to the ground and just opens the gates and they walk through the ways anyway. And it just makes everything feel like it's for nothing. It's just such a devastatingly clever little end to an episode. And even before this final betrayal from the mother Amyrlin, I've always felt like I kind of understood her character. But this episode, the way she's interacting with Rand and caging him and shielding him, and wants to kind of lock him in a little kind of box, and then when the last battle happens, she'll unleash him as a weapon and as a tool, and as she says, not as a general or really like as a person on his own rights. And suddenly it's like, oh wait, no, like she thinks she's doing this for the right reasons, but she's wrong and she's bad and she's going to become an antagonistic character to all of our main heroes. And it was really complicated and interesting because I did not see her character kind of going this way. I was generally not expecting the mother to kind of react to Rand in this way. I like that moment as well where she just kind of like immediately throws some magic on him and chains him down. And she's like, it's been 6 months. And I felt like that was also to the audience to be like, hey, Jax, it's been 6 months since the end of season 1. I'm like, that is a good note to note down for the timeline. Thank you, mother. Everything else you're doing, bad. Bad, mother. Don't like it. But I do like that she's like kind of embarrassed for him. She's like, you have done nothing. You have learnt nothing yet. You need to step up your game. But then as she says that, she's like, how we'll step up your game is locking you in a cage and using you when we want to? No, mother. No. And so as Perrin travels through the desert, we meet 2 more of their tribe, and they're starting to give me very strong Dune Fremen vibes, which I absolutely love. Love Dune more than anything. What a movie. And whilst they don't have the very, very cool, pure blue, vibrantly bright eyes that the Fremen do from Dune, these desert warrior people seem to be sexy, red-headed desert warrior ladies. Which has got to be like the greatest single string of words together to like explain and describe a tribe ever. I mean, it's so cool. They're so cool. And they rock up and they're like, it was your fault for this death. And they just beat the crap out of her. And Perrin's like, oh, am I stepping in? Do I need to do some kind of honor? And they're like, Perrin, I wouldn't. Keep that wolf and yourself away as we beat her to hell. And then they're just like, now we're friends again, honor and stuff or whatever. And they travel through the desert and all of that is really beautiful and fun. I kind of wish we'd gotten a little more Perrin, but I imagine that we'll just get a lot more in the finale. But one thing I found very bizarre is the Perrin plot ends and they come up upon this like cliff edge of the desert and it's all ocean. And you can see Farm, the castle far away, and all the ships of the Fingernail tribe and all that stuff in the distance. And the one thing they say is, yo, guys, what's up with the water? Why is there water here? And at first I'm like, what a bizarre thing to say. Do you not know this land? Like, I figured this was your land. And then suddenly I had this insane realization, this light bulb epiphany moment where I was like, oh, so that moment at the end of season 1 with the Fingernail tribe and they rock up and they tsunami this one little child. I always just saw that as this moment of like, yeah, I don't know, we want to show that these characters are powerful and they're evil and they'll just like be very over the top evil and powerful and bad. So we'll have a big tsunami rise and kill one little child. Because what will they do to people who can fight back when they tsunami a child? Very unnecessary and over the top. But no, apparently, which I don't feel like they explained whatsoever, this is what I'm presuming, so I guess comment below if I'm wrong. But so what I'm gathering from that implication that they're like, hey, what's all this water? They have like come up to the shoreline and the Fung Castle is like inland somewhere. And so they've tsunamied the water across the land and created like more water to go all the way up to the castle so the boats can go all the way to castle to take the castle with their boats because it's inland and not on the like shoreline. So presumably that's what's happened. Amazing, super, super cool. I really feel like you should have explained that properly at some point. I feel like having a moment where the castle sees just this tide of water and this tsunami just rolling towards them as they all panic and stuff and just see the boats. Like even that would have been enough to kind of explain why they did that. Because I'm just like, that just felt like an insane way to end a season. Like cliffhanger, tsunami little child. Whereas it's like, no, it was a very strategic, clever move from the Fingernail tribe. And trust me, I don't want to say anything they do is clever or, you know, strategically, like, sound. But that is genius. That is super clever to get the boats right up to the castle. Love it. I love it. But yeah, just super unclear. Although maybe it's meant to be a reveal. Maybe we're meant to be like, that's what happened. These guys, like this tribe of women, are really the only thing fighting against me finding the bad side just far more attractive and awesome in every way. So I hope we get more play with them in the future. I know I've said sexiness a lot this episode. Don't get me wrong. I don't side with the good side or the bad side, strictly on which characters are sexier. Well, so this week with Matt, he is immediately kidnapped and taken to Lanfear and Ishy in Farm, and we have this really beautiful shot of him kind of being like, where am I? And he opens the doors and he sees the city and the ocean. Really beautiful shot. Just loving how this show looks. Really, really gorgeous. And almost immediately we get to some sweet Ishy times where he is just overly sexual, and I really like that despite how menacing and imposing he is, Matt also is very aware as a character how sexually charged Ishy is at all times. I wonder if once they cast him in season 1, like after they saw him, they were like, should we make Ishy just very sexual all the time? Because that actor is just oozing sexy charisma. I don't know if that's part of the character from the books where he's always kind of got that energy, but I'm really liking it. And I loved the fact that after he's like got a knife and he's doing something weird and creepy, but because of his energy, Matt's like, and this is probably my favorite like line of comedy, maybe in the whole show, it made me laugh so hard. He's just like, is this a sex thing or a murder thing? Regardless, I would really prefer to skip the talking. Love it so much. Made me laugh so hard. Matt is so awesome. So funny. And then Ishy is like, it's neither actually. I'm actually just brewing some magic mushrooms in a teapot. But you know, this is a magic world. So magic mushrooms are literally magical mushrooms in a teapot. And they're going to make you see all your past lives. And you're just going to have a real horrible time. And so Matt, for some reason, is like, yeah, actually, you know what? Taking drugs right now actually sounds really cool. This is definitely not going to completely traumatize me. And so he grabs the mushy pot and he drinks it all, and then he has a horrible bad trip, which is to be expected. I don't know what he expected to see in his past lives, and they're all horrible and brutal, and he just sees all the worst parts. And then Ishy is all like, oh, I just wish I could close my eyes and go to sleep. It's kind of annoying that Matt is so easily tricked and persuaded, unless he's playing Ishy, but it kind of doesn't read like that to me at least. And I understand he's very vulnerable, and it's a very traumatic trip he had, where he's like, oh my god, all my past lives, so much suffering, and every time you die, you just reborn to die and suffer again. It's like, I understand it, kind of, but it just still feels like Matt didn't push back at all on those things. I feel like Matt is someone who, like, I don't know, the things you enjoy in life are worth the parts that suffer. I feel like he's that kind of character. At least that's a vibe I get. Like, if he wasn't in this traumatic situation and with the magic dagger of evil, he seems kind of happy-go-lucky to a certain extent, I feel. I don't know. I just read that from him, so it was a bit disappointing. Not like, I'm not saying it's like bad character work. I just feel like it's disappointing for his character because I like don't want him to go down this dark path. So it's good stuff. It just made me sad because I'm like, no, Matt, you saw you didn't see the vision, but Min has told you, you're going to stab Rand. So don't listen to Ishy. He just wants you to stab Rand for some reason. I thought they wanted to manipulate Rand, but maybe that's Lanfear and Ishy really just wants to like kill him. I don't know. It's going to really kick off in this finale. The idea that there's a prophecy where Rand arrives in Farm and there's fire in the sky and it's the Dragon Reborn has come again, and they want him to have this moment of revelation to the world and then kill him to really... I guess that makes sense for Ishy actually, because then they will show to the world, hey, the Dragon Reborn's back. Boom! We got him! Join the dark side. Or whatever. So we don't get that much of Egwene and Renna Bolton this week, but honestly, I feel like I needed that break. I really enjoyed how much time we spent with them last week. Really felt like Egwene's episode. And this week, we have a really weird scene where it feels like almost like a contest. Hey, all you horrible fingernail slavers, get your little slave, Damane, and show us your power. And it was like, is this like a game show? This is really weird. And they're just showing how much power they have. But the thing that really struck me is already Egwene is muzzled. So she's got the really weird, awful muzzle thing on. And we've seen it before, but seeing it on a main character suddenly made me realize just how horrible and gross it is. And also just how gross it must be for like the actress like playing the character, where she's got to have this thing. So she's probably like holding it in her mouth. She's just like, so lots of breathing through the nose on set. Yeah, all of that felt very, very uncomfortable and gross. But one thing about the muzzle is that I really felt like that was something they put on magically and it stuck on forever. Like it would have to be removed and then it would be removed permanently. Yet when she's in her cell, the muzzle is off again. Which, it's like, I feel weird being like, are the Fingernail Tribe people, like, not as brutal as I thought? It did feel weird that they muzzle them when they go out to play and do magic horrors, but when they're in their cell, they take it off. I just kind of feel like they're the type of people that once you're muzzled all the time. And so I don't know, I guess maybe it's so she can actually converse with her, but then Egwene's like, the only thing she says is like, I'm gonna kill you, Renna. And Renna's like, really like sad. She's like, oh, I thought we were bonding. Why would you think that, Renna? Like, what the hell? But also, it confuses me as well, because wasn't the whole point of the end of the last week's arc is that, like, Egwene has kind of come to terms that she's not going to kill her, and she's kind of been broken. Like, there's that moment where it's like, I will be in situations where I could hurt you, but I've decided and accepted that I will not. And that's when they get muzzled, and that's when they kind of become docile and are allowed to just roam about with their masters out all the time, doing game shows, showing their powers and all that stuff. So yeah, it felt a little weird that she was like, I'm gonna kill you. Because like, shouldn't that be like making her go like, and like fitting and, you know, twisting and contorting the way she was last week? So I don't know. I don't know if that's just them being really like slack, where she's like, yeah, I've beaten her down into submission. Yeah, she can say a casual, I'll kill you. That's fine. I don't know. It feels a little contradictory to how brutal and broken she was after last week's arc. So I don't know, I'm curious how people find that. Like, does that kind of feel like they've kind of toned it down a little bit, going like, we gave you the brutal episode, now it's brutal, but, you know, she's still gonna say, I'll kill you. Like, she's fighting back. I feel like I wanted her to kind of submissively, like, give her water and be nice, but, like, behind the eyes, you know, with acting and all that stuff, you could see, oh, she's gonna kill her. But, like, she's not saying that to Renna, and Renna kind of thinks that they're kind of friends or whatever. So the Red Woman Liandrian rocks up this episode and meets Moiraine's family, and she enters, and that moment where she just walks into the room, I was like, oh my god, don't do this, Liandrian. Do not do this. And what I thought was going to happen is that she was going to kill them both as this kind of message to Moiraine, and to be like, hey, I'm outing myself as the bad guy. Or maybe she'd still be a secret spy, but she would kill them, and it would be this kind of big moment for Moiraine moving forwards. But instead, it turns out the nephew, the guy who's going to be king, is a dark friend. He's evil. Genuinely really shocked me. Like, it completely caught me off guard. But what really surprised me as well is, not only do we out him as the dark friend and a bad guy, he immediately goes to kill his mum, and then she, like, hears him with a little kind of, I don't know, vent. She listens through a vent or whatever in the sewers, and so she betrays him, locks him in a cage, and then all the soldiers come with spears, and we don't see it, but I got the impression that she killed him, because otherwise, he's already locked inside. They wouldn't need the spears. So presumably he's dead, which is crazy how fast that all moved from, like, he's just like this unassuming guy. Oh, he's a bad guy. Oh, he's dead. And so finally we have Lan and Moiraine finally reunited, and it was a really intense moment, and they have a really complicated, awful kind of discussion, and he's like, hey, did you like I don't know how to say this, but did you think about killing yourself? And she's like, no, how could I never would. And he's like, I knew you wouldn't, because you're a powerful, strong woman. But actually, apparently, what he was thinking was, I don't think you've been stilled. Not to say I don't think you're a powerful, strong woman, but you don't want to kill yourself. So I think something's up. And then he goes to Lagaine, and he's like, what's up? Is there something going on with Moiraine? Because she's like a main character. I think she needs to get her magical powers back at some point, because then she can, you know, be a magical, powerful character again. And Lagaine's like, yeah, she's got a whole thing going on or whatever. And Lan's like, sick. He speaks to Rand. He's like, Rand, get the shield thing off. And despite loving that last scene and the whole scene with Lanfear walking through, throwing fireballs, exploding everything, and just crazy madness, the bridge explodes and all that craziness, and everyone's panicking and running about, they trick one lady to put the shield down to get Rand to escape, and there's all kinds of crazy madness as they all get out of Dodge, and I loved all that. But the one thing that I felt was a little bit underwhelming, just in terms of a visual display of what I kind of expect and want to see, is when he breaks Moiraine's shield. It's just like the way Loghain, he's like twisting and turning. He's like, oh, there's just thousands and millions of strands and threads just all over her. I expected when Rand like kind of focused in and looked at Moiraine, it would just be like she'd just be covered in like black perverse, like, corruption of the one power just all over her. Like, kind of consuming it, like, entirely. Like, you wouldn't even really be able to see her. And that he would have to, like, slash through it with the magic power. I don't know, I just feel like visually you could have kind of gone more extreme to really show how evil and, like, awful this thing that Ishy has put on her is. I just think that would have been really, really cool and interesting. So it was a little disappointing. He just had a little kind of thing come out and go, ksh, and a little shield went, ah, and then she's like, yes, I feel all good again. And it's like, okay, that felt underwhelming. And then almost immediately, when Mother rocked up, the Amyrlin, and she like forces Moiraine to do the power, and that, like, the magic's going everywhere, and the way she turns, and that felt visually appropriate. Mother Amyrlin kind of tries to fight Lanfear. She gets like this giant, like, circle around her of, like, blade kind of glass looking knives everywhere, and, like, all of that is what I'm kind of talking about when I was saying really visually interesting creative stuff. So yeah, the breaking of the shield, since it was kind of Moraine's whole arc this season, it felt a little disappointing just on a visual level, but on a story level, love it, and I'm really hoping her and Lan can just team up and pal about and, you know, be friends again. Be friends and be nice and happy, because I'm sick of people being sad in this show. The bloody fingernail tribe. I know that's unrelated, but just I start thinking about things that are sad, and immediately I'm like, for the fingernail people. I hate them so very much. I hope some of them get absolutely killed, because it feels like the finale is going to be entirely focused around Farm. Even Perrin is getting there, so, like, all the characters are intersecting. So I feel like this finale, I mean, I would really love if this finale, every single plot, every single character, all in Farm for just a big, explosive, action-packed, emotional character, big episode. Yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm very sad that we've got one more episode left this season. It's so brief, it's so quick. I don't want to continuously complain that I wish there were more episodes and I wish they were longer. But man, is it sad to think we've only got one more episode this season. I'm having so much fun watching and discussing and talking about it. But hey, let's just enjoy it while it lasts. And then after next week, I can feel sad for like a year or two or whatever it is.